Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Have you ever watched or attend any public speaking like this?
Be no Renaissance, there would be no Reformation in Europe without the role played by Ibn Sina and Ibn Rushd and some of the great Muslim theologians, philosophers, scientists in bringing Greek text.
It seems convincing, right? And affirmative. So, how do they do that? Let's talk about persuasive speaking. Persuasive speaking is the public speaking that most people engage in. It covers various topics from the biggest one, such as politics, war, and humanitarian crisis, until the trivial one, what to eat for lunch. Do you think it's trivial? So, let's talk about persuasive public speaking. Here, we're gonna talk about the most basic skills that need to be acquired by public speaker so that their speaking or public speaking would be more convincing. We're gonna talk about importance of persuasion, ethics and persuasion, psychology of persuasion, challenge of persuasive speaking, how listeners process messages, the target audience, and concerns of the speeches.
The importance of persuasion. Firstly, persuasion is the process of creating, reinforcing, or changing people's belief or action. Secondly, the ability to speak persuasively is beneficial in everything from personal relationship to career aspiration to civic deliberation. Lastly, the job of the persuasive speaker is that of an advocate trying to affect the attitude, belief, or action of a listener. We move to the next point, which is ethic and persuasive. Meeting ethical obligation can be especially challenging when one is speaking to persuade. Persuasive speakers should keep in mind the guideline for ethical speaking. First and foremost, they should make sure their goals are ethically sound and they should study the topic thoroughly so they won't mislead the audience. Secondly, they should learn about all sides of an issue and make sure they get the fact right, and they should be honest in what they say. Next, they should guard against subtle form of a dishonesty, such as quoting out of content, portraying a few details as the whole story, and misrepresenting sources. Lastly, they should present evidence fairly and accurately. Additionally, persuasive speakers should keep in mind the power of a language and employ it responsibly.
Persuasion is a psychological process. It occurs in situations where there is two or more point of view exist. For a clear illustration, the speakers considers genetic screening unethical, but some in the audience think it is justified in certain circumstances. The different point of view may be completely opposed, or they may simply be different in degree. Whichever the case, there must be a disagreement, or else there would be no need for persuasion. So today, we divided the psychology of persuasion into three main branches, which is challenges, processing persuasive message, and the target audience. So, let's take a look at the point number one. Of all the kinds of public speaking, persuasion is the most complex and the most challenging. Your objective is more ambitious than in the speaking to inform, and audience analysis, adaptation become much more demanding. In some persuasive speech, you will deal with controversial topics that touch on your listeners' basic attitude, values, and beliefs. This may increase their resistance to persuasion and make your task more difficult. Furthermore, lines of argument that work with one part of the audience may fail with another part. What seems perfectly illogical to some listeners may even seem wildly irrational to the others. No matter how expert you are on the topic, no matter how skillfully you prepare for your speech, no matter how captivating your delivery, some listeners will not agree with you. For this reason, persuasive speakers must enter a speech situation with realistic goals.
How listeners process persuasive message. When processing persuasive message, listeners engage in a mental give and take with the speaker. Listeners do not sit passively and soak in everything a speaker says. As they listen, they assess the speaker's credibility, delivery, supporting materials, language, and the like. They may argue inside their own minds with the speaker. Effective persuasive speakers regard their speech as a kind of mental dialogue with the audience. When preparing the speech, they try to put themselves in the place audience and imagine how they will respond. Above all, they try to anticipate audience objection and to answer them in the speech. The target audience. It is often helpful for persuasive speakers in terms of reaching their target audience. The target audience is the part of the whole audience a speaker most wants to reach with his or her message. In most situations, the target audience of uncommitted listeners who are inclining toward agreement with the listeners who disagree with the speaker, but who are open to persuasion. Once a speaker knows where the target audience stands, she or he can adapt the speech to fit the values and concerns of the target audience.
Next, some persuasive speech deal questions of value. So what is questions of value? Questions of value is whereas value issues address the age-old questions of what is good, right, or beautiful. Values can be held personally, communally, nationally, and are consequently contested and frequently conflicting. Then, value judgments are based on a person's opinions about what is right or wrong, good or terrible, moral or immoral, and so on. Last but not least, some persuasive speech deal with questions of policy. So, policy concerns particular courses of action, determining whether something should be or should not be done. Also, policy issues address what steps should be made to tackle a certain situation. Policy questions can be pose a problem and an answer. There are two kinds of policy-related persuasive presentations. One approach seeks passive agreement that a policy is desirable, essential, and practicable. Then, the second one is the style attempts to compel the audience to act immediately. That's all from mine. Hello everyone, please be noted that this video is the last presentation of this topic. So, what is the most persuasive speech deal with? First of all, some persuasive speech deal with the questions of fact, in that they discuss results. Factual issues are comparable to instructive addresses, and the distinction is that persuasive speech make decisions about whether the results are correct or not.